and DGCA calls it as peer support program. And this is a kind of addition to regular medical checkups now. Okay.
Correct.
Hello everyone, welcome back to India's number one pilot podcast. And today we are going to discuss something very important, which is a part of a pilot career, that is mental health of pilots.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So what's up? What's up? Welcome back to India's number one pilot podcast. And today we are coming up with a topic not so much addressed, and that is mental health of pilots and air traffic controllers. So in aviation, this subject matter is deeply relevant. Okay. And to begin with a disclaimer, neither of us are psychologists or anything, but we are pilots. Okay. And we know how a pilot's work schedule is, how demanding it is, and what should be done, what should not be done. Not should or shouldn't, but what we do or what we don't do in order to maintain a good mental health. Okay. And also DGCA has come up with a circular regarding this in I believe May.
May. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So May and there was a circular. And it is good to know that DGCA is also addressing these topics. Okay. So if you have a chance, then there will be a link for this document in the description. You can go through it. Okay. But we are going to talk about basically mental health promotion of flight crew today. Okay. And what all things that have been mentioned into it. So if you are interested into this, stay tuned. We'll go into details. Okay. Sometimes if you feel it's getting boring, we'll make sure that it is not in the next chapter. Okay. We'll try to cover base with all the topics.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Pilot Podcast, India's number one channel. Yes, this has to open at this time. And so here we are going to talk about the topic which is quite not spoken about, and it is very, very, the topic which people feel afraid to talk about. And when we talk about the mental health, so why is it so focused, and why is it so important for pilots and air traffic control officers to have a good mental health?
Yeah.
So as a human being, we are surrounded by a lot of conditions and factors and situations because
Yes.
of which it does impose some
Yeah.
stresses on
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah.
being pilots and air traffic controllers, the pilots are quite highly intellectual.
Yeah,
and
we'll
they are
limit the
quite-
conversation, I think, to pilots only
Yes,
instead
yes,
of
yes.
because we don't know what stressors and stress factors that air
Yes.
traffic controllers go after
Yes, yes.
and go after, go through. So we'll limit it to pilots, like
Yes,
what is,
absolutely. Yeah. No, that circular is
Yeah,
for
for
air traffic
yes,
control
yes,
officers
yes.
and pilots
Absolutely,
both. That's why
absolutely,
I addressed to
absolutely.
begin with.
Yes.
So since there are a lot of stressors imposed, and there is every human being and every human individual's limit up to which you can take that stress.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so like that is coping up
Yeah,
with the stress
yeah.
basically. So even though now you, me, and everyone
Yeah.
around, we do have certain stresses, but
Yeah.
we have an ability to overcome that,
yeah.
ability to, find a solution
Correct.
to it, and
Correct.
then go ahead with it. And when you go to the cockpit, it is extremely important that, since the flying is a very challenging profession
Yeah.
where it is quite demanding from you to
Yes.
have many tasks
Correct.
to be performed in a
Correct.
very shorter period of time.
Correct.
So having your mind focused at that task is
Correct.
extremely important, rather than getting yourself distracted by thinking about these
Correct.
things which have affected you throughout your previous few days. And that is the reason why it is important for pilots' mental health to be good and healthy in order to perform their functions safely and tasks safely
Correct.
in order
Correct.
to conduct the
So
flight.
as a human, okay, pilots are humans, right?
Yes.
Okay. And definitely their profession is flying, correct? At the same time, there is a life beyond flying also that they live. Okay,
Absolutely.
like you are a captain, you are a wife, you are a daughter, you are a sister. Okay, you do these things, podcasts, and you have your students. Okay, that
Mentors.
you mentor and that you teach. Okay, there is a life of flying, and along with that there are these things, right? So that said, any personal life challenges someone has, I'm not saying you, okay, any personal life challenges that
Yes.
are part of everyone's life, right? That can be, it can be financial, marital, or health wise, physical.
Correct.
Okay, any that kind of thing can be there. Now the idea is how those do not descend down to the abilities of flying, right?
Correct.
And then at the same time maintaining a good mental health
Hmm.
is vitally important.
So basically, what it means is the stresses or whatever we call it in your personal life should
Yeah.
not affect the life of a pilot. So
Yeah.
when a pilot is going for a flight, he or she should be completely in the flying mode and not
Correct.
think about any other thing apart
Mhm.
from flying,
Mhm.
because as you know, there are a lot of things that a pilot
Mhm.
has to do when is flying the aircraft, and if there is an emergency and the pilot is not aware where he or she is flying right now, so it would take, I would say, little bit more time to make a decision if it's not in that zone.
Mhm.
And for some airlines, in the cockpit door, it's already written that flying is a serious profession. Do not carry or worry beyond this point.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that is the indication that pilot should be mentally fit as
Yeah.
well, or mentally
Correct.
healthy.
Correct.
And as we see on the social media, like very few people address these things. And right now, as we discussed, that DGCA has also come up with the circular.
Yeah.
So now the issue has been addressed for pilots' mental health.
Correct.
So whatever is going in their life, so that
Yeah.
should be kept aside when they
Yeah.
go for the flying.
Correct. Correct. So whenever there is any kind of, if something unusual
Mhm.
happens,
Mhm.
which is not as per your wish, that
Mhm.
is that imposes
Correct.
stress on
Yes,
us,
definitely.
right?
Definitely.
If it goes as per your will, there is no stress.
Correct.
Yes,
If it
yes.
goes against your will, there is a stress, right? So, and if there is no solution happening at that
Mhm.
point,
Yeah.
okay, so it is important that at such situations, those pilots should, or any trainee pilot,
Yeah.
or even if
Mhm.
flying pilot, should talk to their close friends, or
Yeah.
maybe close, family
Yeah.
members. Maybe like for me, it's brother, you,
Mhm.
and then if in case
Yeah.
any close family member
Yeah.
or a close friend, if
Yeah.
you share those things, then they can come up with a solution
Absolutely.
for that particular problem.
Absolutely.
So when things like that happen, then if solution is found, then problems can be resolved.
Mhm.
Correct.
There are certain problems which need a little larger step. That will be the
So
next thing to be
for
taken.
some problems, you need a different perspective. Or
Yes.
so let's say if someone is going through something like which he or she didn't wish for,
Yeah.
and at that point of that person is not able to think clearly.
Yeah.
So they need an input from an external source. So once they share that things with others,
Mhm.
they can overcome it.
Correct.
Correct.
And as a student pilot or during your training when you're going through stuff, so basically during the training part, which is the most difficult, like when you start learning a skill, that is the most difficult part of pilot
Yeah.
training. And there will be days when you will be feeling low. Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
doing enough. Okay, my friend is getting everything like this, and why am I not getting it?
Mhm.
So at that point of time, it's so either you can reach out the instructor,
Yeah.
you can talk with your friends that okay, this is what I'm doing. So do you think am I doing wrong, or
Mhm.
what should I improve upon? That is the
Mhm.
best way to approach that thing,
Mhm.
Correct.
instead of just like sitting with yourself
Correct.
and
Mhm.
thinking negatively. Okay, I'm not good enough. Why did I choose this thing?
Right.
So
Correct.
that won't help. But instead of that, if you have an improvement mindset,
Yeah.
like what should I improve upon, okay, am I not putting enough efforts?
Correct.
So that is the thing which will get you ahead in your pilot
Absolutely.
career,
Absolutely.
rather than just sitting and not sharing with anyone.
Absolutely. So working towards and find a resolution to it
Correct.
is very important.
Correct.
And certain things which are minor things, you can just neglect those things and then put your focus on things which are required to be done. Like for example, when little things here and there are there, okay, but when you go to that cockpit, the entire environment is such that it is so much demanded out of you, that environment demands so much out of you that you forget everything that was there, or maybe little minor things here and there that happen, you just forget it and then you are just focused on that.
Correct.
So it is
you continue.
so it is important that you focus on a task that is required out of you to be done, rather than keep thinking and then just sitting at a place and then just drowning yourself into that particular issue. So try to find a solution. If it is something minor, you can just neglect it and focus
And to
on.
give you
Go
an
ahead.
example, like during our training days, especially what I remembered is the landing. So that was the most difficult part, I would say. And once you overcome that, your confidence is up like this. But to be there, you have to understand, okay, so there's a lot of practice which you would be needing, like for landing. And we have separate 2-3 lessons, like we do like 10-15 landings to see how we learn. And then we are flying the Cessna 172. So in that, the most important thing is when you flare and how much you flare. So if you flare a bit more, you like balloon and then you bump, okay? So that's, you have to go around. But the moment you learn how much you have to flare and what height you have to flare, you gain tremendous confidence in landing, and from there the graph starts going up, okay? So that is the point which is most critical in a pilot's life, or in a trainee pilot's life, I would say. So once he or she overcomes that,
it is a motor skill and hand-to-eye coordination about landings. Some people get it sooner, some people take time to get it right, and it's different for different airplanes, right? Like definitely. And basically a person also develops the site that this is for this airplane, this is the site where you kinda start rolling. Basically in general aviation it is rollout or transition. Basically transition.
What is it? Flare.
Transition. So in general aviation it's called, in US it is called transition.
To?
Basically landing. Okay, it's not a flare. It's not a flare. So the way ATRs land, okay, nose down profile, okay, and then just parallel, mine or nose up and touch down, okay. Same way Cessna goes, same way Dash 8s go, all of those airplanes, Diamonds, okay. That's transition, okay. On A320s, okay, that was new to us, that you come with a pitch up profile, like it's a positive nose up pitch angle, right? And then you just increase the pitch angle little bit, and okay, anyway, not the topic of landings or in this one, but at the same time, like you said, that you need to discuss with somebody, right? Like if there is something, then we discuss with somebody, okay. And that is definitely a good way to solve problem, because more than one head, and the other person is able to look at the problem or the situation while not being in it, so is not emotionally 100% feeling the problem, but gives a suggestion as a third person while not considering that person himself as a victim of the situation. And that's why usually those inputs are definitely fruitful, okay. And DGCA calls it as peer support program, right? So peer support program soon will be in most of the airlines, okay. And this is a kind of addition to regular medical checkups now, okay. So and so soon let's have a basically psychologist, counselor on CNTAA as well to counsel
Absolutely.
students. We have hundreds of students, and we speak with them time and again. Okay, even when they are done with the DGCA exams, because the journey doesn't end immediately, right? Then there is flight training, there is type rating, there is airline induction, and different things around it, and different stress factors in the process of becoming a pilot. So the stressors that a student pilot faces, which we have experienced, are different than stressors that an airline pilot faces. Correct? Is
Yes.
that so?
Yes, that's true.
Because the schedules are different. First of all, I mean, the easy pathway to get into a mental health situation, in my opinion, would be use as many drugs as possible. Okay.
Easy.
Do not
That's-
sleep at all. Okay. Drink alcohol immediately after waking up.
That means you get into mental health problems. That's what it means. Okay.
Yeah, it is a negative
Yeah.
way of putting it. I don't know if someone chooses to clip that.
That's what I was going to say.
And fucking make a reel that Nilay said that drink alcohol immediately after waking up.
That's what I was going to speak, because then that thing will go viral. Oh, they are pilots and they are preaching like to
Yeah.
drink alcohol, to use this.
If you have chosen this path of becoming a pilot, drugs have no place.
Absolutely.
Like, no chance. Okay. And if someone is habitual to it, don't get into pilot training. Just don't. That's
Yeah, either leave it or
yeah. I mean, either it is that or pilot training. Both cannot go together. Both cannot have. Okay. Importance. Okay. Importance of this. Importance of mental health would be. So Capt.Neha did make a video in past days about this and Trulopit's, the
Yes,
German
yes,
wings
that's
crash,
true.
right?
Yeah.
yes.
What would have happened if that guy had spoken with his peers about his condition? Sure, maybe he would have been grounded for
Sometime.
for some time
Yeah.
for the problems that he was
was
facing or going through. But so many lives could have been saved,
Correct.
right?
It was regarding the German wings crash, which happened when the captain went to use the washroom outside, and then cockpit door was locked, and then this first officer chose to put the aircraft down by putting it in alternate law. It was Airbus 320 itself, and stall the plane and crash into the
Oh,
mountains.
it was Airbus 320.
Yes.
I thought it was ATR.
No, it was
Okay.
Airbus 320. So, and he put the aircraft in such a situation that it will stall and then crash onto the mountains. So that was a deliberate act of suicide. That was
Yeah.
a suicidal act by him, along with so many passengers.
Correct.
So to avoid such situations from happening, these checks or mental health checks are incorporated now from 30th May in class 2 as well as class 1 medical,
Yeah.
in which there will be, soon a certain questionnaire given to
Yeah.
the candidates, and then they will be asked to answer to those questions. Yeah.
So another reason and importance of addressing this topic would be, I'd say, if you are deciding whether you should or should not become a pilot, okay, then an understanding about this, that what are the expectations from aspiring pilots, what are the expectations from airline pilots, okay, and if you do fit into that personality model, the journey will be way easier for you than someone who does not fit into that personality model, because changing personality, in my opinion, is not overnight and is difficult. Okay, one might be able to or may not be able to. I'm no psychologist to tell you whether anyone can change their personality or not or otherwise. Okay, But I can tell you that yeah, so if an airplane has a VNE, which is maximum speed the airplane can fly at, okay,
Never exceed speed.
never exceed speed, right? Of say 180 knots, okay. If you try to go beyond that, the airplane will disintegrate, okay, or break, fall into pieces in the sky. So you don't want to do that. Yeah, so from the perspective of airline assessments, airline inductions, okay, it is to assess that the student or the aspiring pilot is mentally fit or not, the psychometric tests. And there are the questionnaires, different types of questionnaires, certain examples of statements that are given. Do you agree with those? You don't agree with those? There are different battery is basically an assessment of psychology. The model of assessment of psychology is called battery. I know all these terms because I've done a course from a psychologist. That's why I know. If you all know Jordan Peterson, yeah, Jordan Peterson, that's the guy. Okay, if you want to read more about him, go ahead, feel free to do it. Okay, so the point being, okay, is personality traits or humans, okay, have limitations. Okay, if someone has certain personality trait, okay, then that is, as much as that is a limitation, that is an ability as well. Okay, so no personality is a wrong personality. The only point is if aviation suits in your personality, okay, then you should definitely, if everything else is in order, you can definitely consider becoming a pilot. Okay, so knowing basics of personality is important in order to make the decision whether you should or should not become a pilot, right? Okay, so how do you know what are the personality traits? Okay, what is the baseline of personalities? Okay, so this is from the DGCA documents, the 5 personality models on which airlines are supposed to judge anyone's personality or conscientiousness, openness, neuroticism, agreeableness, extraversion. If you are working at any multinational company, okay, then you would know Ocean is the assessment profile, personality assessment profile, which is the short form of this, Ocean. Okay, that's what it is. So we'll go into one by one, okay, and how many of the pilots are like in these personality models. So do pilots have high conscientiousness or low conscientiousness? If do pilots have high openness or low openness? Like, this is an average, okay? It's not a specific number. It's not that anything binary, that if someone has this different, that person cannot become a pilot or can become a pilot 100%. No, nothing of that sort. Okay, at the same time, if we take sample size of 10,000 pilots, say 8,000 pilots will have most likely that kind of a personality. And that is one of the reasons pilots stand out. Even if a pilot is not in a uniform, an airline captain especially, okay, would stand out because the way the person communicates, the way the person carries himself or herself, and that is what is distinguished. All right, let's go over which one you want to start with.
Yes, so the basic to start with is extroversion. And that pilot or the quality means that that person loves to talk with people.
Yeah.
So how do we incorporate that into a pilot's life?
Yeah.
So as a pilot, we tend to fly with different crews every day.
Yep.
And then to gel up with the different crew, it is important that should happen in a short span of time, because you don't have like 4 or 5 hours before the flight to just know each other and then go for a flight. So that duration to speak with the other person and getting comfortable with that person, so that with the crew cooperation, the flight is carried out successfully. So that is why most of the pilots are high in extroversion, right?
Correct.
They love to
Absolutely.
talk to people.
Absolutely. High as in on a scale, if we consider 0 to 100, if that is the scale, then they would be more on the side above 50, because these scales are in a way. So if it is less than 50 means less extrovert, meaning introvert, okay, which is the negative side of it, which is not how many pilots are. And if we'd consider ourselves, okay, we'd go and speak with anybody. If as long as the person is not holding a gun pointing at me. If it is pointing anywhere else, I would. Okay.
So we are not hesitant to make a conversation with people whom we don't know.
Yeah. And other traits associated with this personality trait of extroversion would be enthusiasm. Okay, so a person who is high on extroversion would be enthusiastic towards things and people, okay, and that makes a person interesting. We all know that friend in a party that is like yay going on, okay.
Full on energy,
And that is if someone doesn't like it, that's okay. You don't have to be that kind of a person all the time. That's not necessary. But at the same time, there should not be again, I used a word. No, pilots don't have like hesitation from being that way. Okay, so they are usually enthusiastic. And one more important trait associated with extroversion would be assertiveness. Okay, so assertiveness is associated with leadership also. Okay, now when you lead, you need to have certain credibility. Okay, if you don't know something and you're trying to lead the group into that, that's where you need followership. You don't need leadership in there. Okay, she knows better than me. Okay, so I would follow her rather than leading her. Okay, she is a captain. Okay, so aviation knowledge, I would not try to lead her. Okay, unless there is something that I certainly know and have read about, and I'm so sure about it, like black and white, that okay, this is wrong. I respectfully approach and say, I'm just doubtful about this one, so can we just check that once again from the source, and if it is correct your way, then we'll go your way. If it is correct my way, then we'll go my way. That's
also an example of agreeableness. So if there are two pilots in the cockpit, right? So if some pilot has 25 years of experience, has been in the Air Force and worked for years. So if that pilot tells something like, let's say, let's do this procedure this way, and you have short read the SOPs, and you think that no, this is not something which is mentioned in the SOP. So you might again speak like you just said, like just convey it to the captain that I think we should confirm it once more, because I think I have read this, and you can go over it within 2 minutes and then decide, and not blindly follow whatever that person is saying if you know that it is not the right thing.
So assertiveness. Now, more than me, because we until basically type rating, have experience of being in single pilot cockpit. Okay, and when we went for typewriting, that is when first time we were introduced to multi-crew cockpit, and then that becomes a coordination. Okay, that becomes a collaborative effort. So enthusiasm and assertiveness are the sub traits of extroversion. Okay, that is how it is. Now, extreme assertiveness you can look like if I'm extremely assertive with anyone, okay,
Mhm.
I'll look like an okay, like सीधी भाषा में yeah, that's what it is. But when required, a go around is a go around, okay, whether that's a first officer or a captain, whoever says. Simple. In our flight school, a student was kicked out of flight school because he didn't comply to positive exchange of flight controls. So when instructor says I have controls, the student has to leave controls
Correct.
altogether,
Correct.
okay, and basically says you have controls, and it's a three-way exchange. In Airbus it's only two-way exchange, I believe, right?
So when
I have
instructor
controls,
says
you
I
have
have
controls.
controls,
Yeah.
then a student says you have controls.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
two-way. This
yeah.
is
So
three times you
in
have
US it was like our flight school it was three-way, okay.
Hmm.
So I have controls, you have controls, then the instructor again says I have controls.
Oh, okay.
It is visual and verbal exchange and physical exchange of controls. That is how it was. The guy started fighting with the instructor. Okay, no, I have controls. The instructor is saying I have controls.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a safety issue.
Yes.
Right? They were close to the ground. Instructor was like, this is a safety issue. Next day, the student is out.
So I recollected one of the incident which is to a certain degree related to assertiveness.
Right.
So it was during my FAA check,
Mhm.
right? When
Mhm.
I was landing in a Popka, which
Right.
has a very short runway.
Correct.
So the DP asked me, so once we landed, he's like, okay, let's go now, take off. Okay, so it's a touch and go. So when I landed, I almost consumed half of the runway.
Yeah.
And then if I had at that time put the hand on my the thrust levers and I have put like full max throttle and I
Mhm.
would have gone for takeoff,
Yeah.
it would be an unset.
Yeah.
Because he
He
is an
didn't-
experienced DP. So
Yeah.
he's just checking if I am obeying him or no.
Yeah.
But I have to obey him if he is right.
Yeah.
So he just asked me to, okay, you
True.
go. And there
True.
was not enough runway. So I just told him there's not enough runway. I'll just taxi back and then we'll go around.
Absolutely.
So that's how they check during
Yeah,
the
it's
flight as
decision
well.
Correct,
making,
correct,
right?
correct. If you are
Is,
able to make
yeah,
a
it is the
right
decision making.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Correct, correct.
yeah, that time, so assertiveness, use it in the right places.
Yes.
That's-
Yes, not
don't
everywhere.
yeah,
Yes,
use it in the right places, right?
Correct.
Now that was about extroversion. Okay, now neuroticism. Neuroticism is
Extroversion and assertiveness.
Yeah.
both, right?
Yes, extroversion.
yes, so
assertiveness.
extroversion is the primary personality trait. Okay, out of which there were two that we discussed about. So one was enthusiasm, and second was assertiveness. Okay, now, I'm able to put it forward easier because I have my own notes here. And yeah, that's how it is. They also have studied the same thing. It's just they are not cheating like I am. Yeah. All right. Next one is neuroticism. Any stories about neuroticism? Neuroticism. Okay, what is neuroticism? Neuroticism is likeliness of feeling negative emotions, being sad more than being happy. Okay. Or low neuroticism is being more happy than being sad. That's about neuroticism. Okay. Then two parts associated with neuroticism. People who have higher neuroticism or higher negative emotions, okay, are more likely to give up. In psychological terms, psychologists call it as withdrawal. Okay. And second trait associated with that is volatility. Okay. In pilot studies, usually the sentences or thoughts are usually like, okay, this is messed up, I can't do anything about it. Like,
Should not
right?
do.
That is basically withdrawal. Okay. What is the example sentence for withdrawal, what would be that sentence?
What's the use? So if there is an emergency or if you are stuck in a situation, if you act as per the SOP, there is a way that you can improve the situation.
Absolutely.
And if you ask yourself, okay, what's the use? Like if I do this, what will happen?
Yeah.
That is not the attitude that a
Correct.
pilot should be in.
Correct.
So it's always following the SOPs
Yeah.
and saying to themselves, I'm not helpless, I can
Yeah.
make a difference.
Absolutely.
So speaking of what's the use, if in case when it happened to Captain Sully Sullenberger, when after takeoff from LaGuardia Airport in New York, when both the engines shut down because of bird strike and the flock of birds were ingested into engine. Because of that, both engines conked off just after takeoff at a very lower height. Back in time, there was absolutely no SOP, no checklists for dual engine failure at such a lower height. There was a very long checklist for dual engine failure when aircraft is at a higher altitude, whereas this happened at a lower altitude. He made the best use of whatever available as a knowledge to him
Yeah.
for over so many years,
Right.
when he had not even practiced it even once
Correct.
before, and then found out and devised a way to figure out how he can make a difference and save the lives of everyone on board
Yeah.
and the aircraft. So that is the way he found out the means
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then ditched the
Yeah.
aircraft safely
Yeah.
in Hudson River.
Yeah.
And that has derived now a checklist, which
Yeah.
is a separate checklist of both the engine failure at lower height
Right.
when the aircraft suffers from in that situation. So
Correct.
this never give up attitude has to be there
Yeah.
in pilot's mind.
Yeah.
If that is not there, then unusual situations cannot be tackled
Yeah.
in a best manner possible.
Yep. Yep.
So it's very important that you stay determined and strive till the
Yes.
end, whatever best possible you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is about withdrawal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's well said.
So never give up, basically.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very well said. Because this also relates to aspiring pilots and student pilots. Okay. The likeliness of things going wrong during training, okay, with the airplane are at the highest. Okay. Because airlines make sure the airplanes are safe. Okay. So do flight schools. Okay. But as much as A320 is safe, the same cannot be said about the smaller airplanes. Okay. Even though they are well maintained, even though everything is perfect, okay, things can sometimes go wrong. It's single engine primarily. Like level of safety and redundancy is lesser in a
Correct.
single
Correct.
engine than a multi-engine. That is a fact. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not making this up. So at that time, you can't give up. Hopefully, you don't encounter anything like that. If you do, don't give up until the airplane lands safely and you're out of it with the airplane safe and you being safe. That's what it is. Another point that I'd like to mention about withdrawal is not only flying, but when things get difficult in pilot training, things do
Yes.
sometimes.
it does.
Okay.
It
There
is
are points.
quite possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they do, withdrawal door is closed. You can't walk out. Your parents or you yourself have already put in a lot of efforts, money, time into the profession. There is no provocation to start pilot training, okay? Neither against it. But if you have started, withdrawal is not the way. You can't withdraw. You have to find a way to make it work. That's my opinion. Okay, that's how I've done it. and I wish like we all wish the best for you. So better you also consider it like that.
Correct.
Second point about, okay, that's about withdrawal. Anything else to add to withdrawal? No.
That's pretty much.
Yeah, so next point would be sub part of neuroticism would be volatility. Okay, any examples on volatility you wanna give? Like,
Yes, one example is what we use in day-to-day life, which is
Yeah.
Instagram. So so now there's this reel section which is popular among everyone. So once you start scrolling,
Right.
your 1 or 2 hour goes,
Yeah.
and you won't even notice it. Okay, 1 hour has passed.
Yeah.
So what does that do is the scrolling which we do on the
Yeah.
reels.
Yeah.
So each and every reel is not similar. So
Right.
one has a positive emotion,
Yeah.
one has a negative emotion,
Yeah.
one has a happy emotion, one is
Yeah.
motivational.
Yeah.
So in a minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, if you scroll through the reels,
Yeah.
you experience a variety of emotions,
Yeah.
okay, which is considered something to be volatile,
Yeah.
right? And for someone to experience this set of emotions in 5 minutes was
Yeah.
impossible 5 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So what it does is like I would say human brain is not designed to experience so many emotions in such a short
Right.
span of time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah.
it was, say, before mobile phones, say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, one person would start day with meeting partner or meeting someone at home and carry on to the work. Yeah, obviously day has its own challenges and outcomes that are like either good or otherwise. How was your day was the question. Okay, right now it is like, how was your last minute? That is
Yeah.
right. Like if because would be, yeah, there would be many things done in a day for sure, definitely, but there were not so many abrupt changes in emotions back in time which do exist now, because thanks to the social media. No, I mean, we love social media too, just it's what we are addressing here is limit time. Like I have like 30 minutes on my phone.
Yeah.
And how about you?
I have 15.
Have
Okay.
1 hour.
Yeah. I mean, you post a lot of things, so yeah, so that is. And a person that I follow gave this hack, like basically if you're at work, then just put your phone on black and white. The phone becomes black and white, right? So if you're at work, put it on black and white, it becomes way less interesting. So
Yes, and you tend to use it for less.
Yeah.
Like you won't feel the urge to use it.
and it still gives the message anyway, right? Like this is black and white, okay? There is nothing interesting in this anymore. Yeah, it's still, I can call, I can message, I can do everything, but it's just not that fancy.
Yes, it's downgraded to Nokia.
So sometimes to go ahead, go a little bit, back in time. Yeah, back in time, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. So volatility is abrupt change of decisions, abrupt change of emotions. Okay, that is an indicator of higher volatility, meaning higher neuroticism. Okay, any examples that you could give us for?
So, as a pilot, it is not very good and it is not desirable to have that high amount of volatility and changing decisions abruptly. Like, for example, if in case a pilot once lands, now whatever happens after you put the reverse thrust, you have to make sure you complete the landing safely. Okay. If you have to take any decision of aborting that particular landing and going around, you should do it before the reversals are extended.
Right.
Then other case, if in case there is bad weather or there is not, it is not possible to land at a particular place because of heavy air traffic congestion and your sequence is way behind.
Yeah.
In that case, if in case you have to divert the flight
Correct.
from that particular destination to alternate airport,
Yeah.
then once you make a decision of diversion, then you need to stick to it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, in the middle of it, you cannot, change your decision
Yeah.
and again come back.
Yeah.
No, because all the calculations are changed after you initiate a diversion.
Right.
It is not all of a sudden in between you again come back and again go.
Right.
No, that's not happening.
Right.
So you need to ensure first, yes, alternate airport is, which is planned, that you're going there, and whether over there is good, there is a reasonable traffic for which you have some amount of fuel to wait and then land, and then make a decision for diversion, not abruptly.
Correct.
So pilots need to be decisive, and once that decision is made, then it has to be followed.
Correct.
And the thing is, it is not desirable to keep going back and forth like this.
Right. Yeah. So
That's
once you
not-
commit,
yeah.
once you decide,
You have
okay,
to
decide
fulfill.
is, in simpler words, decide would be elimination of options.
Yeah,
And,
Yes.
correct,
and
correct.
coming to a
Mhm.
conclusion. That is decision, decide. Okay. I guess it is a Greek term, or the derivation of word decide is, I believe, some European, Greek. Okay. So it is basically cut. Okay. Decide.
So based on facts and options, you should
Yeah.
take everything into consideration
Yes.
before making a decision.
Yes.
And once you decide, then
Yeah.
stick to it.
The
That's
four
what
deck.
it is. Yes, foredeck. Yes.
Facts, options. It
Yes.
becomes like part of life.
Life,
Aviation and pilot training becomes part of life. Like anytime there is, be it in the cockpit or outside, it becomes the model, right? And those are very efficient models.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, foredeck. What is foredeck? let's
Yes.
go over that.
Yes, we have gone over it once.
Oh, we did?
So yes, we have.
We did
Yeah,
speak
yeah,
about
yeah,
foredeck.
Yes.
Okay, watch
Yeah.
that episode, foredeck. Yeah, just give it quick.
Yes, it is about facts.
Oh no, don't give it. Then they'll watch the other episode. Sorry. Views. All right.
Yes.
So, are you tired with this already, or you wanna go more? Okay. I think. I mean, for today, this is quite detailed. So what we call it in our podcasts is conversational contrast, and in this episode the conversational contrast has been very little. So conversational contrast is basically, though it is 1 hour long conversation, so many topics back to back are covered into it that I mean
difficult
yeah,
to absorb every
yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Okay, so in ocean we did extraversion, we did neuroticism. Agreeableness is the third topic. Okay, third personality trait. Okay, agreeableness is relatively, I mean, if you consider, it is opposite of extraversion, and opposite of extraversion meaning subtraits of agreeableness would be compassion and politeness. Here is where the followership is something that comes into play. But at the same time, most of the pilots relatively have not very less, but relatively lesser agreeableness. Okay, like they won't immediately accept what someone else is saying. They'd have their own opinion, and opinionated, okay, is another behavioral trait of extraversion. So higher agreeableness, if someone says something, you immediately agree on that. If some other person says something, you immediately agree upon that. So if you do that, then there is a lack of personal opinion into it. Okay, but when, like, aspiring pilots point of view, okay, it is like if someone else has more knowledge than you, if someone is more experienced than you and more skilled than you, then in that case you should agree to them in most cases. And if you are the person with higher experience and knowledge and skills, yeah, that is where you do assume leadership, and in otherwise you assume followership. So it's a combination. Use right thing at right places. That's what it is. Okay, that's about agreeableness, because it'll become like 10 hours if
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go into detail of each personality trait, and we will do this with a psychologist as well in future. Okay, we have some friends that are psychologists, and we'll get them on the podcast. And uh, basically this is pretty new right now, so psychologists, yeah, speaking of which, I remembered this thing. We had an instructor in our type rating for A320 type rating. His name is JP Russo. Okay, hi JP Russo. Okay, Captain JP Russo. Worked in Jet Airways for 5 years. He is from South Africa, lives in Ireland, has worked in Airbus, company Airbus, not company Airbus. He said that there is a department of thousands, if not tens of thousands of square foot, which is only based upon psychologists and human limitations. So the airplane itself is designed considering what limitations humans have. Like, you can't expect one human to press 20 buttons at a time and at the same time fly, right?
Correct.
So yeah, and it is becoming now mainstream
Yes, and few after
topic in Indian aviation also.
yes, and after a couple of years or maybe couple of months, it would be mandatory for every airline and for every institute to conduct an exam for their pilots.
Right. Yeah, so that is agreeableness.
So
Yeah, so
yeah.
conscientiousness is orderliness, discipline. Okay, that is all it is. And yeah, it tells a lot about grit, ability to do hard work. Okay, that is about conscientiousness. And pilot's perspective, yeah, go ahead.
So, when we talk about conscientiousness, so that is the ability to work in a disciplined manner. So, when you go to that cockpit and you fly with different pilots,
Yeah.
so if there is a set standard operating procedure which is already laid down by a manufacturer, that is either Boeing, Airbus, whichever aircraft you're flying, and then there are certain company procedures. So, whoever you fly with, you will have to do the same procedures.
Yeah.
There is no a particular pilot's
Yeah.
procedure or whatever that is not
Yes.
to be done. You have to follow that set procedures. Okay, and then certain airmanship here and there, those
Yeah.
things are
Yeah.
different. Okay,
Yeah.
but that is okay. But when you talk about set procedures that need to be followed, that brings the whole discipline to the entire flight, and then the cockpit and the procedures. And these procedures are designed by manufacturer
Yeah.
primarily,
Correct.
and then there are some additions by
Correct.
company, that is airline. So these procedures are laid down by over so many years after certain requirements and after certain changes which have happened,
Or
and
incidences,
these
yeah.
are incidents or abnormal things which have happened. Out of that, these procedures are laid down.
Yeah.
So it is called as SOP is written. So it is said that SOPs are written in blood,
Yeah.
because there have been certain things happened,
Yes.
and out of that these SOPs are formed. So it needs to be followed meticulously.
Yes, like the example you gave of Captain Sully. So now that is an SOP, right?
Yes, that is a part of your emergency checklist.
Yes.
Yeah, QRH.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a part of the emergency checklist in the back of the normal checklist.
Correct.
So the thing is, it is important to follow those set rules and not consider yourself that you would do better than what is
Yeah.
written down over
Yeah.
there. Okay.
It's
So-
like making life difficult for yourself, actually.
Yeah. So the behavior is based on three different things. One is the rule-based behavior.
Yeah.
So rule based, whatever is said rules, you follow that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then skill based behavior.
Right.
Like you're flying, okay, if in case some things are here and there and you
Right.
need to
Mhm.
apply your own thing, you have skills which are gathered over years
Correct.
and then you follow.
Correct.
And if none of that fits in at that particular situation, like Sully did,
Yeah.
what he did that
Yeah.
time, there was nothing
Yeah.
written, no rule at that time, no skill which was imparted to him
Yeah,
to,
skill
to
or
fly in dual engine
Yeah,
failure
yeah,
situation
yeah.
at
Yes.
that low altitude.
Low
correct.
altitude.
Never
So
practiced.
yeah. So he applied all the knowledge that he had gathered over years and flew, made the best possible way, and managed the flight
Correct.
to land safely.
Correct.
So that is the knowledge-based behavior. So these are the three behaviors based on which
Yeah.
a pilot,
Or it could be
acts.
in combination as well,
Or it
right?
could be in combination
in
of
most
those,
cases, yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah,
So that's how it is.
that's good application of conscientiousness for sure. I mean, definitely. Yep. So usually pilots are higher on conscientiousness. Pilots don't break rules most in most cases. No, I mean they don't. Not in most cases.
They never
yeah.
break rules.
Yeah, here's the thing. The language that we try to use on this is there are no shoulds, shouldn'ts. Okay, it's like this is what individually our own experiences have gotten us up to this point. Okay, everyone has their different experiences, so that's why. Okay, but there is not much to be said about following rules. Just follow. As a pilot, just follow. And again, rules are different, laws are different. The company that you are working for or the rules. Okay, law is the national jurisdiction, and whatever that they lay out are the laws. Breaking a law puts people behind bars. Breaking rules puts people out of company. so yeah, I mean, if the aspiring pilot is on higher scale of conscientiousness, life is much easier.
Yes.
Yeah. Next is openness and intellect.
So most of the pilots are balanced in the openness and high on intellect.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the cognitive test which
Yeah.
the pilots give before they
Correct.
get into the airline, or for the cadet pilot assessment they have something called as cognitive reasoning test, which measures a pilot's intellect.
Yeah. Cognitive abilities. It
Yes.
measures cognitive abilities. That's what it is.
Cognitive ability, if you want to put it as in simple terms.
Go
can,
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically like hand-eye mind coordination
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
a certain task.
Yeah, and
That
also to process abstract information,
Correct,
right?
correct.
Like as a pilot, how many sources of information you
Many.
are applying while flying? Okay, you have an
Lots.
iPad,
Yeah,
which has the
EFB.
Jeppesen charts. Okay, you have
EFB.
performance calculations on the EFB.
Yes.
Okay, then there are
There is
PFD
Rapid
inputs.
flight display
Yeah.
on which there are so
MFU.
many
Yeah.
different information like
Yeah.
altitude, altitude, then
Correct.
speed, heading.
Then
Then
there's
ND has
Yeah.
weather information, terrain information, other traffic information.
then radio
Then
communication
video
from the
communi-
cabin.
Yes,
Yeah.
plus engine parameters,
Yeah.
plus communication within the cockpit, plus
Lot
so all
of
these
information,
Are
yeah.
there.
Yes, so
And
many.
systems
And what
monitored.
is the Airbus terminology that you build a in CRM? It is collective model of mental
mental model.
about the flight, right? Like an emergency, a flight experiencing emergency. Both pilot and co-pilot would have the same mental model towards the situation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then the pilot flying or the captain would have a certain expectation from the first officer or pilot monitoring in that case, and they both behave in that manner, and the safe conduct of a flight is performed. So all that is part of cognitive abilities,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And cognitive abilities would be strongly upon decision making. That is, I mean, timely decision making, right?
Yes,
So
because you have a very less time.
Quick information.
So if you're in flight, you still have few minutes to decide.
yeah,
But if you're closer to the ground, you might have just few seconds
it
to
also
decide.
it
So-
also depends on the emergency, right? Type
What
of and
kind of-
nature of emergency. Yes, so that is about the final part, intellect and openness. Openness is usually measured by different tests. Those can be named differently, but it'll be most likely abstract problem solving. Okay. Yeah, those will be primarily abstract problem solving. Now, some claim that intellect in a person cannot be changed, which is most likely truth. There is scientific evidence for that. Okay, a person's intellect grows until the age of 25 and then remains to be the same for rest of the life. But on the basis of, so there is one IQ and then there is fluid IQ. Okay, so the person with relatively lower IQ would need to put in more efforts to get the same amount of outcome. Okay, person with higher IQ would require lesser inputs to get same amount of outcome. Okay, at the same time, if both persons are aware about it, okay, they can achieve same outcome to a degree. Okay, but at the same time, all the tests make sure that the IQ or cognitive abilities of the pilot are not less than the minimum. Okay, that is what it is. Yeah, so limitations is not a negative word, but if someone is aware about those limitations, that person can definitely make the best out of their abilities, in my opinion, right? Like, yeah, that's what it is. Now let's close this, I think, because we have been going on for
Yes.
too long. And
Thank you
yeah.
for staying up till here, because this
Yep.
podcast was really different, because
Yeah.
we went into a lot of topics and
Yeah.
it can get overwhelming for you.
Yep.
But hope you understand like what actually a pilot personality consists of.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who is an aspiring pilot, you know it. Now you can work on these things.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And there's one more thing, which is situational awareness. So if you guys have seen this podcast till now and you have noticed some changes in this setup, then yes, you're paying
During the
attention. Yeah,
podcast.
during the podcast. And if you want to find out what is that thing, you can
Yeah.
go in the first couple of minutes and then come back again to this frame. And then if you could find out, let us know in the comments. Okay.
I think
That is-
they're all very smart to
Smart,
find
yeah.
out what it
Yeah.
is. Okay.
Yeah. But we won't. We'll reveal that in the next podcast.
Yeah.
So
And-
let us know in the comments if you find out.
And if you did find out, okay, the next level of situational awareness test would be go on YouTube and search selective attention test. Okay, do that. Most of the people that I did give that to non-pilots, okay, to give that test to, were not able to identify the
Yeah.
difference. And most pilots that I gave to, were able to understand they were immediately like, okay, this happened. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is different. Probably you develop that with training. Probably it's the training and it's the way of thinking. Pilots think a little bit differently, think about safety all the time, and are aware about surroundings all the time.
Mostly they
Yeah.
evaluate each situation,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
it is safe to do it or not
Yeah.
safe, what will be the consequences and everything.
Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you don't understand the selective attention test, okay, if at this point you understand, great, amazing. If you don't beat yourself up. Okay, that's okay. Okay, with training, it is all doable. Okay, right, training. And one thing we missed upon, few quick things like to maintain good mental health as a healthy human being, okay,
Yes.
what do you practice usually?
So for me, to stay fit mentally, I feel it is good to breathe. The more you breathe, you take more oxygen and
Yeah.
you feel better.
Yeah.
That is one. That
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
a bit of pranayam. Just basically, it's oxygen.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
a
yeah,
very, very
yeah.
basic
Yeah,
thing. Okay,
yeah.
some people call it as yoga or whatever. That is okay.
Okay.
The other thing is exercise. So again, it is in the same way. If you feel good about your own
Yeah.
health,
Yeah.
physically you feel good mentally
Yeah.
as well. So that
Yeah.
is also another way in which
Correct.
you keep yourself fit
As the-
mentally.
Yeah, as they say, like a good body hosts a healthy, a
Healthy.
healthy body hosts a
Hosts a
healthy mind,
healthy
right?
mind.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are the things which I still practice. I mean,
Yeah.
I continue to practice
Right.
and I will continue to practice
Right.
despite of any busy schedule
Yeah.
that we
Mhm.
have.
What's your opinion on sleep about that?
Yes, sleep is extremely important
Yeah.
in order to function to your optimum level,
Right.
as well as you have a healthy presence of mind, situational awareness, and you are able to
Mhm.
function well in the flight.
Correct.
So, sleep is quite important.
Yes.
When it comes to the point when you have to wake up at 2 o'clock, like
Mhm.
tonight I have to wake up at 2:30.
Mhm.
So it is not always possible that you can give 8 hours of sleep to
Okay.
yourself
Hmm.
at that point, because at 6 o'clock in the evening you may not be able to sleep.
Right.
You may be able to sleep by whatever 8:30, 9. Okay, so try to do it as much as early as possible,
Correct.
so that like you can have dinner early, so
Correct.
that when you go to bed you are lighter on stomach
Correct.
and you don't feel too heavy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Otherwise you won't be able to get sleep immediately. So that is one. Then you can avoid consuming coffee in the later hours of evening, so that you can put yourself to sleep
Correct.
early. So these are the things which you can practice, and at least give in that situation, at least give about 5 hours or 4 to 5 hours of sleep minimum.
Right.
And then go on for a flight. If you can sleep for 6 hours, great. I
Right.
mean, but for me, I just keep it like minimum before such flights when you have to wake up at odd hours, at least 4 hours is mandatory. Then you
Right.
feel good.
Mhm.
Okay, 4 to 5 hours.
Mhm.
If you get 6 hours, then you are
Right.
great to go
Right.
on the whole
Mhm.
day. And then after, once you're done with the flight, then again you would have to sleep, because
Correct.
you are up the whole
Correct.
night, and thereafter you come back and then you can maybe sleep for a
Correct.
couple of hours.
Yeah.
And then again.
What
do
is
the
your
rest of the
opinion on
activities.
alcohol consumption?
Alcohol consumption, so when you have that entire week of flying,
Yeah.
then obviously not in between the two flights and then putting yourself, okay, I just have now 12 to 15 hours
Right.
and then I would consume alcohol. No. So maybe sometimes, or there is nothing wrong in doing that once
Yeah.
in a while.
As long
So-
as the person is of legal age. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hmm.
And once in a while it is okay,
Okay.
but then not routinely on a
Mhm.
daily basis,
Mhm.
because then it gives the addiction, and that is alcoholic person will not
Yeah.
be able to survive longer
Yeah.
without getting
And also sleep
be a-
gets affected because
positive,
of
yeah.
alcohol, right?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And
Yeah.
plus your digestive system is
Right.
affected. Anyway, because of the odd schedule of flight, your sleep and digestive system is affected to
Correct.
an extent.
Correct.
So if you put alcohol into it, then it makes things even worse.
Correct.
So why to put yourself into
What's your
that?
opinion on psychedelic substances?
Absolutely no.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely no. That is a big no. If you want to be a pilot, you should not consume, or I would say rather,
Have you ever done anything like that?
never.
Okay. Never touched.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Never.
Same.
Yeah. 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 All right. Thank you for your 2 cents, your opinion on this. What is your secret of not secret, but what do you want to say about maintaining good health? How do you do that?
As it is said that a man who is in the hospital has one wish, and a man who is not in the hospital has thousands. So that tells us that health is the most important thing. Coming back to the another thing which would be important is limiting the use of social media. So I use, like as we discussed, we have time limiters on our phone to limit our activity on social media, and then spend couple of hours or like the time in a week with the family. Okay, you share what's going on in your life, and it's always good to share space and time with family. And then another thing which I do is I keep my schedule busy. Like all of us have a very busy schedule. We keep on working, and we have so many students with whom we are in contact with, and we guide them on a regular basis. So being productive for most of the time, and there should not be any empty space in my calendar. So it is rightly said that stress comes from things we know that we are not doing. Okay. So if you have tasks piled up, you know in your head, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not doing it. That what puts stress on your mind, and that the more time you remind yourself that this is not something you have done, the more stress you come. So that's how it is. So if you have a list of something which has to be done, just go ahead and do it. You'll be stress free.
Cut the time gap, cut the confusion, cut the self negotiation between, like you decided while sleeping that I'll wake up at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, the negotiations that your mind has, you know what, I'll get it done even afterwards. Okay. You know what, I think I deserve few minutes of extra sleep. That negotiation turned before that kicks in, just jump out of the bed and start, right? Okay, that's what it is about. Take things in your control, okay? And do not consider any of this as provocation to become a pilot or anything against it, okay? If you are an aspiring pilot, you know what to do. I won't say it today. And that, so you both pretty much covered everything on that. I don't have anything else to add. Yeah, they stole all my points, I guess. No, they did not. Okay. Yeah, so that's what it is. Thank you for joining us. It was awesome having this conversation. If it was too complicated, no, not every podcast is in this much of detail, but this was the language used in DGCA's circular. That is why we had to use the same verbiage, okay? And in aviation, as you know, you have to be precise to the verbiage. You can't use the words around it. That is why such complicated terms. In next episode will be more entertaining for sure. This was more informative kind of episode. I hope it helped you in certain way, okay? And maybe you will have a different perspective towards handling situations, conflict solving, conflict resolution, and all of that. If it does, push that subscribe button, like this podcast, and share it with your friends, or do any of that, whatever you want to do. Okay, it was awesome having all your beautiful faces on this podcast. Thank you.
So, having said that, all the intricacies regarding your mental health, we tried to cover it in this podcast. So just make the most of it and try to understand what is required out of you if you are aspiring to become a pilot, and then you can take a step forward. So this is a glimpse of it, and yes, there is more to it when you actually want to go for those tests.
And this and this is not a psychological or medical opinion. Okay.
Yes, thank you all for watching it till here. This could be an overwhelming episode, but if you have taken notes from this episode, it would be, you would be understanding the pilot personality in detail, and we'll come up with some entertaining stories in the next episode. Till then, have a great day, and comment down if you have spotted the difference. Bye bye.
Bye.